Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray. Folks, this is going to be a good one. Barbara Scurry is with us with Senior Partners. Barbara's here to talk about how she prevents seniors from getting scammed. And that's an important topic these days for sure. But before we get to Barbara, I want to remind you that we are broadcasting from inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta. And if you want impersonal service, don't come to Renaissance Bank, because what they do for all their clients is deliver personal service. Yes, if you're happy with that mega bank and their computer-generated voices and chatbots, stay right where you are. But if you're unhappy with that, and you know what, most people are, then I encourage you to check out Renaissance, because what clients that I send to Renaissance tell me is they're big enough to handle pretty much any need you can throw at them, but they're small enough to do it in a human, personal, humane way. Go to renaissancebank.com to learn more and find out where to be in touch. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And again, I want to welcome Barbara Scurry is with us. She is with Senior Partners. Barbara, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's a delight to have you. So let's talk about you and Senior Partners. How you serving folks out there?
So what I do, most people have no idea is even a thing. So that's why I always love the opportunity to come in and talk about it. So the way I describe our service is, it's called daily money management. But most people, again, they're like, daily money, what? So the way I like to describe it is we're senior inbox managers. So if you think about your inbox at home, where you put your mail and your bills, things that need to be taken care of on a weekly or monthly basis, we go to seniors and we manage that inbox for them. So we open and sort the mail. We make sure bills are being paid. We make phone calls on their behalf. We get them financially organized so that we can find important documents later. And that's, in a nutshell, what we do. I always ask people, sometimes when I'm in a group of people and I'm doing a presentation, I'll say, how many of you guys like opening and sorting your mail once a week or monthly? It's rare that I get somebody that raises their hand. Sometimes you get one or two, the weird ones, right?
Sure, yeah. The ones that enjoy anal tasks, yes.
But most people don't. And I'm always in a group of mostly younger people, or at least people our age. So I say, so think about a senior citizen that has macular degeneration and they can't even see their mail correctly, or they have arthritis or like Parkinson's and they have a tremor and it's hard for them to open their mail or even try to write a check, or they're hard of hearing and it's hard for them to make a phone call and get through to a live person on the other end. So that's where our services come into play and how they can be so helpful to people.
Yeah, you're talking about something that those of us that are younger, in my case, temporarily younger, don't really fully get, right? You don't fully understand it till you get there, but that can be a very simple task that you took for granted in your earlier years becomes frustrating and really debilitating in a way.
Absolutely. Because what we know is that as people age, that tends to be one of the first skills that goes, the ability to keep up with mail and to be able to pay bills and balance a checkbook and keep all of that stuff together. It's one of the first things that goes. That's one of the signs, like when you're with family members or you haven't seen somebody in a long time and you start to notice these things slipping, that's a sign that maybe some help is needed.
Barbara, let's talk a little bit about, before we get into some of the details of that, and I'm sure there are many more than what we have just discussed. Let's talk a little bit about you and your passion for this work. There's a lot of things you could be doing, but why did you develop this passion?
So I have a background in working with seniors. I've done manufacturing, business development, but my first touch with seniors was when I worked for a small manufacturer that did splints in diabetic shoes. And so I called on a whole lot of nursing homes in the Georgia area. And that's when I first fell in love with working with seniors. But I worked for a continuing care retirement community here in the Atlanta area. And one of the jobs that I had to do was I had to go to the hospital when the independent living members would go to the hospital to say, hey, we can take care of you at our nursing building. And what I found is that, of course, a senior, they never feel that they need any help.
Yeah, right.
They just think they can just go home but they didn't have a clue as to what their options were. And their adult child that was with them didn't know what to do either.
Mm-hmm.
And so they think Medicare is just going to pay for everything. And that's often not the case. So what I found that I was the person that kind of was this liaison between the hospital staff, like the social worker, the discharge planner, and trying to come up with a plan. And then I would take this plan back to them and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And they would always say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Just thank you so much for your help. You lifted this huge burden off of our chest. And I just thought, it warmed the cockles of my heart, as I say. And I thought, I really helped somebody. I really made a difference in somebody's life. And I just loved that feeling. And I thought, how can I get that feeling in my day every day? And somebody brought this idea to me doing this. I remember having the conversation with the person, and they said, I ran into somebody, they help people pay bills and they do all of these things with seniors. And they're like, you'd be really good at that. You're really organized. And I thought, what's that called? And she was like, I don't know. And we talked about it some more. And then in the end, she said, daily money management, look that up. And I did. And lo and behold, there's like a whole organization. There's the American Association of Daily Money Managers.
Right.
So there's a whole organization of people that do what I do. And I had no idea. And so I was off to the races because I get to help people and make a difference in people's life every single day. And it warms the cockles of my heart.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And it really helps when clients are grateful for that work, right? And you're working for a demographic that, I don't know, maybe I'm a little biased or whatever, but probably tend to be a little more grateful.
I would say probably 98%.
Right.
Because unfortunately, you do get the occasional client that, they need the help, but they're still not really willing to accept it.
Yeah.
So it's hard for them and they just fight you.
Right.
So,
and they're really not fighting you. They're fighting their condition and where they are in life, really. Right. Yeah.
And that can be challenging sometimes, but for the most part, all good.
That's wonderful. Barbara Scurry is with us, folks, with Senior Partners. That's the name of her firm. Barbara, let's talk a little bit more about daily money management, the service itself, because it's really more than opening mail. That sounds fairly rudimentary, but you've got quite a robust list of services that you offer.
Yes. In addition, opening and sorting mail, paying bills, reviewing bank statements and credit card statements, making phone calls, filing paperwork, helping them with calendar management, sometimes doing appointments for them, coordinating services like needing to bring in a home care company, helping them find like somebody who is a move manager. Mm-hmm. Then if I get into professional fiduciary services, then that's a whole nother ball game so that I can become somebody's power of attorney or trustee. I've done all sorts of things under that. I can sell people's houses. I've sold cars. I've had to sell jewelry to raise money for clients. I did that just this week. So there's all kinds of things. So my tagline is life and money matters, because a lot of times when we get into working with a client, we see that there is a need for a lot of other things that can come up. And we like to sometimes become like the quarterback with a team of people, if we can bring in a team of people. So we may have a care manager involved. We may have an attorney is involved. Their accountant is involved. A financial advisor is involved. So while I'm a daily money manager, I do not manage people's money. Mm-hmm. So that's for a financial advisor, wealth manager sort of things.
You're managing the process of living, really. And
yes.
And what you might call the sand in the gears, shall we say, of life that people have to deal with, and just becomes more difficult as you age.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that it would be really good at this point for us to just show how this works and maybe use a story or two that helps illustrate how your service unfolds when you work with a client.
Yes. So one of my favorite stories I like to talk about is Dorothy's story. So she was, I think she was about 79 years old when I first started working with her, an elder orphan. So I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it's basically a senior who never got married, doesn't have kids. There's just basically nobody there. And so when I started working with her, I was really afraid she was going to run out of money in 12 to 18 months. And she had been one of those people. She was a teacher and she had been a secretary and just kept detailed notes about everything. But she just, as she aged, she just couldn't keep up with that. So when I got involved, I realized that she was not getting the care that she needed in the assisted living home that she was living in. So I helped to facilitate a move, and that move helped save her $2,500 a month. So as I was opening and sorting mail, paying bills, bringing in other services that was needed, I noticed she had this letter that was coming in that was saying that she had these stocks that were about to be escheated to the state of Georgia. Uh-oh. So for people that don't know what that word means, it means that basically you have something and the state is going to take it away from you. And they're going to own it.
That's all you need to know,
yeah,
right?
And we don't want that to happen.
Or Barbara springs into action.
Yes, because she didn't understand what the letter was. So I was able to finally call and find out what was going on. And so I was able to figure out, okay, you've got these stocks, so we need to find these stocks. She didn't know where they were. So we went to her safe deposit box. They weren't there. We were looking in all the usual spots you would think. They weren't there. So during this move, I told the move managers, I said, give me everything that looks like it's important. Let me go through it before anything gets thrown away. Mm-hmm. And so one night I was sitting and I was going through some papers and I found this, I opened up this blue folder, just nondescript, could have easily been thrown away. And there I found these stock certificates. It turns out when we took them into the bank, they ended up being worth over $125,000.
Wow.
So I went from thinking she's going to run out of money in a year to being able to take care of her for 3.5 years further. So we got her moved. And I always like to talk about the warm and fuzzy things, like, is it's more than just paying bills and opening mail. I helped to arrange a housewarming party for her at her new place when she got there. Mm. And then her 80th birthday rolled around and I did a birthday party for her at her favorite restaurant in town. It was if you're familiar with the Swan House.
Yes.
Her and her mother used to go there for lunch. So I arranged a little birthday party for her 80th birthday party. As I was doing things for her, I noticed somebody went hog wild with her debit card. So somebody was charging all these charges on online, like shoes. And this lady had never, ever been on. She never even used a computer. Mm. So I had to get all this money back from her. It was like utilities and somebody's car payment. It was crazy, but I was able to get those charges reversed. She continued to decline, unfortunately. So I had to move her to another assisted living community. And then from there, I had to move her to skilled nursing and had her for those last 3.5 years. I felt like I was able to help make her life better. Mm-hmm. Would take her shopping, take her out to lunch. I had brought in a home care person that was really good and kept her really engaged and doing things and getting out. So yeah, I think that's a good example of kind of what it could look like.
Yeah, what you're describing is a situation where you become so essential that you're woven into her life in a way that's hard to separate out.
Yeah, because I think I really try to stay in my lane, focus on like the financial piece of it. But I got involved with her medical stuff a lot because we didn't really have the funds to bring in other people to do that work. Now I always like to try to do that if I can. But I remember saying, it would be more beneficial to you if we just hired like a home care person. They can take you to this doctor's appointment, but she would just insist, no, you have to come with me. I want you to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And scope of what you do really depends on need and I guess desire to outsource, because both of those two things. So really one client looks the same in a lot of ways, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
We tailor everything to what our clients' needs are. So we have some clients we see every single week. We see some clients once a month. And generally, most of our clients see us at least twice a month. That's a good kind of maintenance schedule.
Barbara Scurry is with us, folks. She is the founder, owner of Senior Partners. That's the name of her firm. I want to shift gears here and talk about what I led off the show with, and that is how you protect seniors from scams, because we know that seniors are a prime target for the bad guys out there who would like to separate them from their money.
Yes, unfortunately. Boy, I tell you, you have to fight the fight
Right.
every day. And there's so much. I do a presentation about the top 10 scams, but there's always new ones constantly coming in. I think one of the good things we do, I always talk about, we get things done for our clients, we save them money, we protect them against scams. And one of the ways that we do that is by being that extra set of eyes and ears. So we're seeing the mail, we're looking at bank statements and credit card statements, finding the things that don't look right. I'm always talking to my clients about, if somebody calls, don't give them any information, don't share anything. But if I made a case study of one of my clients. So when I started working with her, again, she just couldn't keep up with her mail and all of the things. And she had a lot of people in and out of her place. She had a lot of caregivers and whatnot. And I started noticing some irregularities in her bank statements. First I started noticing she was getting on her credit cards, lots of bogus credit card charges that I would have to call and get reversed and dispute. But then I started noticing on her bank statements, like large deposits going out. And I was like, wait a minute, this company name is the same company name that was on this credit card that was a bogus charge. That's really weird.
Uh-oh.
So then I call the bank, and then they would say, yeah, this was an ACH like that she did from her account to a Fidelity account. And I'm like, she doesn't have a Fidelity account. So we called Fidelity, and they couldn't verify her over the phone because all of this information was fraud. I had to physically take her down to a Fidelity location so that they could verify. And they were like, oh yeah, this is fraud. And then when we were down there, they were like, oh, by the way, did you know about this online account that's attached to our account? So there was some online only bank that was attached to this account. And we were like, oh gosh, so I had to call that bank.
Oh boy.
And shut that down. So it turns out, yeah, what they did was they had moved the money from the bank account to this Fidelity account, and then they were going to try to move it from that Fidelity account into the online account. And luckily we stopped it before it happened. Like, they did the check, but the check came to us because they were like, yeah, we know that this is fraud. All told, after I started putting these things together, I was able to get her back like $17,000.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's a drop in the bucket kind of, because there's so much. I could tell you stories of people that have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But yeah, for her, she was grateful for that.
Wow. Probably grateful beyond words, because that's huge. So what are the suggestions that you have for seniors that want to protect themselves from scams? I'm sure one answer is hiring you, but beyond that, what are some suggestions that you have?
Yes, having somebody to be able to look over the shoulder. And again, because if I wasn't there, it would have gone undetected. Limiting access, like sometimes people that do have caregivers, and I know there's wonderful caregivers out there, but unfortunately we have the occasional news story that shows that some are just not. But you really don't want them doing anything with your finances. They're generally not insured for that either. Making sure that there's limited access to those types of things, because that's one of the things we had to do. We had to change the way that she was getting her mail. We had to make sure that they weren't getting on the computer. I always do recommend people, as much as they can, do not mail, get on the do not mail list, do not call list, to try to lessen stuff that comes in. A lot of it's just education. I'm always trying to tell them, just don't give out any information.
Right.
One of the things I also do proactively is I now put a credit freeze on all my clients' credit bureau files. So that really helps stop things. And that it's a new concept for them, but it's free. That's why I like it. It's free. It doesn't cost them anything. They're not having to pay for credit monitoring services. And so and the way that works is if anybody tries to get credit in that person's name, they have to unfreeze their credit. And so it stops people from being able to do that, because if you don't have your login and password to unfreeze your credit, it's not going to get unfrozen. And then that creditor can't look at it to be able to open up new credit in their name.
Yeah. And you may not be, a lot of people may not be aware of this, but the schemes and I guess the way fraud happens is getting so sophisticated that, for example, someone can call up with an impersonation where on the caller ID it says your local bank, right?
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Yeah,
yes.
and you think you're talking to your local bank, but you're really not. And they're asking for personal information over the phone, which your regular bank would never do.
Yes, I was going to say that. So that's one of the other things I tell people. Like, even if it looks like it's your bank that's calling you, just hang up and call your bank directly. Call the number that you know directly. Don't give out any information, because again, it's like, and the banks try to say this, we're not going to call you and ask you for personal information, login information, passwords, account information when we call you. Or they just generally don't do that. But yeah, even I got that happen to me when my bank called, quote unquote, my bank called and said that somebody had gotten into my Zelle account or something like that. I didn't even have a Zelle account, but they were like, somebody got in here and $1,500 went out and we're going to transfer you to the FDIC agent.
Oh boy. What a crock of bull that was.
I was like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
And when they kept making me hold, I was like, because I kept saying, how could this happen? How could this happen? I don't even have. And so I just hung up, and then I called my bank, and sure enough, they were like, yeah, you don't have it. And there's no way anybody can get into it. And they're like, and nobody talks to the FDIC agents. That's not even a thing.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. But it sounds convincing. And these folks should win Oscars for how convincing they are. So it's really important if you are a senior, to know this or to get somebody to help you.
And I try to warn them. Like I had a client tell me somebody tried to call from Georgia Power. I think it was one of her utilities, and they were threatening to shut off her utilities. And she kept saying, she's like, how could this be? But luckily she stopped, and she was like, okay, no, she just hung up, and then she called me. Yeah. I was like, no, that's not a thing. Like, all of your utilities are on auto pay. I just try to educate a lot. Just be aware of this, and don't give any information out. Just don't. I remember calling one of Dorothy's friends, because when I started working with her, I was trying to get information, and I called her. And I was like, I was trying to make sure I was talking to the right person. So I was like, is this Mrs. So-and-so? And I was very professional. And she was like, who is this? And I was like, I'm Barbara Scurry. I'm with Senior. Is this so-and-so? And she just hung up on me. And so I called her back, and then she let it go to voicemail, and I explained. So I left the message. I explained, this is who I am, and this is why I'm calling. So she calls me back, and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just thought you were a scammer. And I was like, no, that is okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
It is
I'm
okay.
Don't, I said, because if it's a legitimate person, they're going to leave you a message like I did, and then you'll be able to have the opportunity to call them back. So I remember, I thought that was funny, because she felt so bad, but I was like, don't feel bad. That's what you need to do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. What important work from Barbara Scurry with Senior Partners. Barbara, let's be clear on the types of clients that are best fits for you.
So for me, we work specifically with seniors, hence the name Senior Partners. So generally the types of clients we work with, they're usually over 70. They're elder orphans. Like I said, they don't have any family. They never got married. They don't have kids. They have no family. Or it's a senior that has family that lives far away, 4 or 5 states away. They just can't be here to help them.
Right.
Or they have family that does live here, but they're really busy. Their adult children might be part of that sandwich generation where they still have young kids at home or in college. They're still working a full-time job, and they just don't have the time to do it. Or they their adult kid might not be good at doing it. If they don't take care of their own stuff really well, you don't want them taking over your stuff. And then finally, I would say recent widows or widowers, where the spouse that died took care of everything and the one that's left just has no clue because they never had to pay the bills and keep up with all of that type of stuff. Those are the types of clients that we generally work with.
You shared a couple of different terrific success stories. Are there others?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there are. As long as you've been doing this, I'm sure there are.
Yeah. Again, just sometimes, like I said, we get things done, we save our clients money. So an example of that, I think on my third visit to a client, I noticed that she was paying long-term care insurance premiums. She was actually on claim. So she was receiving long-term care insurance benefits. Generally, when you go on claim, you stop paying your premiums. So I called, and sure enough, the company was like, oops. So she had been paying premiums for 10 months. That could have been going on for who knows how long.
Right.
So I saved her like almost $3,000 just within the first 2 or 3 visits with her. One of my employees worked with a couple who had been in assisted living, and they never filed their long-term care insurance. And so they'd been living here for over a year. And so she was able to go in there and file and get retro pay. So that was another $100,000 that we were able to get a client.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So trying to think of some other things, but those are just some examples.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess one of the ones that I worked on this past year, I had to bring a client back to life. How about that?
Now we're talking about a value-added service. Lots of value in bringing people back to life, folks.
So, yeah, unfortunately, I had a client who, between the hospital and a rehab stay, he got declared deceased with Social Security. And let me tell you, that was that took almost a year to get worked out. So it was constant visits to the Social Security office. And then finally we actually had to bring him down, and he's in a nursing home. But we prevailed and we were able to get back pay. And that was probably over $42,000, able to get his back pay for that and get his insurance reinstated and all of that. But yeah.
Wow. Wow. What great stories. So what are the character, edit all that stuttering around. What are the characteristics that for personality has something to do with it? But I mean, people worry about who to trust, right? And so how do you know who to trust?
That's a good question. So I always tell people, you want to hire somebody that knows how to do what you're wanting them to do. So there's daily money managers that specialize in all different types of niches. Mm-hmm. I just happen to specialize in working with seniors. There's some that work just with like business owners. There's some that work with just like disabled people. It just depends. So you want to make sure whoever you're wanting to work with has experience in doing that. Check references, testimonials, that sort of thing. I know we've got them on our website. Also, you want to make sure that they have insurance. For daily money managers, basic insurance is what we our E&O insurance.
Errors and omissions.
Yes, that's basic. That covers the business. In our case, we also have a fidelity bond in place because I do have employees. So there's a fidelity bond that covers employee theft as well. Get a lot of our business from referrals. I've developed lots of relationships with like elder law attorneys, estate planning attorneys, financial advisors, wealth managers. So because I've known them and have built relationships with them, they're the ones that usually bring us in because as most seniors, the world could be caving down around them and I'm fine. I don't need help. I'm good. Right. It's usually the people that are around them that see the need for our services. And so because we've built that relationship, it's an easier connection usually. But those are some of the things, you know, obviously you want to know pricing, how much do they charge and how do they work? Because again, there's some daily money managers that just work from home and just do remote work. And then we are with our clients. We like to handhold. We like to be with our clients and go and see them and spend time with them. So you just want to understand how they carry out their services.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Barbara, this has been great. And I can't imagine that there aren't some folks upon hearing this interview that wouldn't want to be in touch with you and learn more about your services and the great work you do. So let's give them directions. How can they find you?
The best place is the website. It's www.yourseniorpartners.com. Everything is on there. I have a blog on there, all the listing of our services, testimonials, references, all that kind of good stuff is on there. Plus, there's also a link to set up an appointment to talk to me. So I offer a free 15-minute phone consultation, and you can actually go to the website and click on that and get on the calendar for that if you want to talk with me.
Barbara, this, again, what wonderful work you do. And I can't imagine that the peace of mind that you give clients at the end of the day to know that they're not being scammed. They've got somebody looking out for them every day, and that's you. So thank you and your team for the great work you do. We're honored that we could shine a light on it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, before we let you go for today, I've got a couple things to let you know. I have a book out for those of you that are solo and small professional services firms. It's for you. It's a book that talks about your value, how to determine your value, your positioning, your business development, and your pricing. It's called The Generosity Mindset, a journey to business success by raising your confidence, value, and prices. So if you're a consultant, coach, attorney, CPA, accountant, bookkeeper, marketing professional, this book is for you. Go to thegenerositymindset.com to learn more and to learn where to buy the book. Also, I just want to thank you. If you're listening to this show, I want to thank you because you have supported us, you and many others over the years. As we are coming up on 9 years of North Fulton Business Radio, we've been doing this show for 9 years this coming May 2025. We'll celebrate that 9th anniversary, and we're up to north of 830 shows. And we have only gotten this far because of you, because you support us in so many ways. Send us notes of encouragement, share the show on social media, like the show, send us great guests. And without you, we could not live into our mission to be the voice of business in the North Fulton region and beyond. And for that, I am grateful. Thank you for your support. So for my guest, Barbara Scurry, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.